going on, my friends? I'm Rick, and this is your seat at the table. And I think there's something a little laggy on my computer because when I do the transitions on this, it's just like there didn't used to do hesitations. Now it's doing hesitations. It's just kind of making me crazy. Anyway, so we're looking at the last of the brown covered books that I have for second edition. So, not perhaps the last one I reviewed because I believe I have one. I have Dwarves yet to post. I think I have to check. So this is the complete book of Elves, and this would have been, remember, we're progressing from the original basic concept where dwarves and elves and or hobbits or halflings were actually a character class. And so at this point, we after first edition, we advanced Dungeons and Dragons. We moved into the various races having multiple classes. So in this case, they open up with this book on the elves, and we get a little bit in-depth view, and pretty much everything in here is almost carbon copy of everything we know of the elves and their history and their deities and so on and so forth, and it carries through. So if you look at stuff for modern Dungeons and Dragons, for example, when we're talking about elves and the Panathalon and Drow and things like this, all that was built on the foundation from these books here, and so these books still are pertinent and have value. And there's also some lost gems in these things where that you may find that were left out of later books, were either deemed unnecessary or inconvenient. Then we got so Elves of the Worlds, Al-Qadam, the campaign world, the Dark Sun campaign world, Dragonlance campaign, Forgotten Realms campaign world, the various differences between the elves of those campaigns, Greyhawk, of course, Ravenloft, Spelljammer, right? Great Tree and the Elves. Physical attributes, psychology, communication, elven sight, manifestation, resistance to heat and cold, the reverie, stages of life, other elven abilities, middle age, adolescence, old age, venerable age, the elven bond, elven infertility, elven music, outlook, individual worth, emotional logic, generation splits, attitudes towards the other races, the elven language, elven livelihood, rituals, passages, celebrations, the blood oath, elven holy days, some various stories that are tied to their deities, the death of elves, accident or violent death, and funeral ceremonies, the Grey Elves City, right? Various types of subclasses of elves, the High Elves Tree Town, the Sylvan Elves Encampment, the Grey Elves City, level limit expansion. That was one of the things that was an argument for many years early on, was that it came to elves. When we compare the humans be the base for everything, there was arguments that was said, well, Gemini, if an elf can live to be, if an elf is immortal, all of Middle Earth, Lord of the Rings, or if an elf can live to be 1,000+ years old, all of most elven accepted elvish entries in the games that I know, anyway. That, well, gee, if they're going to live that long, why aren't they much more skilled? And or vice versa. I mean, the average human in a game terms, we go from 0 level to 10th level in a very extremely short period of time when you really look at the overall lifetime of a person's, So the idea that an elf could gain 10 levels in a year, for example, is terrifying, because the idea of a 500-year-old elf having, 5,000 levels of power is broken. It's just broken. So they've had to try to make some adjustments in how to address that. In a lot of ways, they just looked the other way and then muttered under their breath and then shrugged their shoulders and let it go. Like we see a lot of stuff in, how come there's so many? How come the inner sphere is so vast in BattleTech, and yet they have such an extreme shortage of jump ships that there's no way their economy, let alone general transportation of people between worlds and within given houses, could exist, because it just isn't enough damn motor power to get around. So we all just kind of agree to agree or agree to disagree, and the why and the hows of that. right? So we get to the standard elf abilities, the sub-races, using bows as weapons, the stapling shot, the quick draw shot, the trick shot, the double arrow shot, the foot shot, the hang a tree shot, the broken shot. So, excuse me, people see some of the, when they sing Jackson's versions of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and we see Legolas and some of the trick shots he does. And they're like, well, I want my elf to do that. Well, you know, if you go back to this edition, we actually start the inclusion of called shots, specialty shots, and things of that nature. And this was a common reference for many, many years whenever that would come up. Well, how can I hang from a tree and shoot my bow with my foot? Well, luckily for us, they actually have addressed here. Here's the negatives, here's the positive, here's the benefit. You know, bang, bang, bang. Nice to have it, even if it is crunchy. So, aquatics, the drow, half elves, gray elves, high elves, sylvan elves. Then we get into elf PC kits, the priest kit, warrior kits, the archer, the wilderness runner, the wind rider, the mage thief kits, the elven minstrel, spell flitcher. That's right, spell flitcher, not Fletcher. Flitcher. Blade singer, war wizard, fighter thief kit, the huntsman, the collector. Jesus, that one there takes frickin' 2 pages. Fighter mage thief kit, all class. Kit for any class, undead slayer. And we get things like elven equipment. Yeah, excuse me, damn it. The Fey Rhine, Elven Heart, Honey Leather, Sashling, Elven Plate Armor, Fire Arrows or Flare Arrows, new elf spells, so on and so forth. Like I said, the more we know, the better off we are when it comes to a lot of these stuff. And then there'll be people who go, "Oh, we don't need all that stuff." Well, that may be true, and the reason we don't need all that stuff is because we have all this stuff. Until next time, I'm Rick, and you're not.